I got a Guinness. What are you on?
I'm on me.
Oh, the Brewdog.
Advent calendar. It's honestly, it's weird. There's some wacky shit in this. This is a hazy one. It's honking.
Is it any good?
This one's all right, actually. But there was a double punk. That was like the first different one that I hadn't had. And it was about 9%. It was fucking horrible.
Oh, dear.
Mike's already got attacked by all these weirdos. All these Brewdog apologists.
Welcome everyone. We'll give it 30 seconds for people to pour in. It's lovely to see so many people here tonight. As you will have noticed, swearing is permissible tonight in the chat room and live. Sorry if that offends you.
It's outrageous. Outrageous.
I know you get these guests and you just have to go with it, you know.
That's going to be the first one to swear. Fuck that.
I'll give it a couple more seconds.
I would say we'd put Rob Parker on the bleep machine, but he's already shown in past podcasts how inept he is with getting the bleeps right.
I'm terrible. The bleep. Even when I'm in charge of the bleep machine, I bleep the wrong bit. So I'm not good at that.
My wife was
sensitive information.
I love the new.
Oh, that works.
Right, guys, we've gone up to 44. I think we'll get things going because I've got a lot to fit in and we've only got about an hour to do it. Welcome, everyone. Firstly, I'd like to say do not adjust your set. You haven't tuned into some knockoff version of Celebrity Squares. This is the Northern Crime Syndicate Christmas special. So good to see so many of you here tonight as we try to find some positive things to say about what's been a very difficult year for many of us. Firstly, as you see, we've got some Northern Crime royalty in the house tonight, so I'd like to welcome our special guests. A former recipient of the CWA Dagger in the Library Award for her outstanding body of work, author of 12 hugely successful crime novels, and the 2020 winner of Capital Crimes Book of the Year for Without a Trace. It's Dame Mari Hannah. Welcome, Mari.
Hi! Woo!
I need whoops from the rest of you guys. I can't do it all.
Come on!
Thanks, Danny. And we also have the Gold Dagger winner for the Puppet Show in 2019, long listed again with Black Summer in 2020, and the absolute pin-up boy of the influential UK Crime Book Club, Sir Mike Craven. Welcome. It's a great
thing called a pin-up boy.
Got visions of a Mike Craven calendar for 2021 now.
It's already out.
I'll come back to our guests shortly, but because we've got quite a few newcomers in the audience tonight, I can't think why. Maybe it's because they want to see Rob Parker's new house in the background there. I'll just go through some of the house rules, and then we'll get the regular NCS gang to introduce themselves. We do have the chat room open tonight. You'll see at the bottom of the screens. Please post whatever you like in there. Chat amongst yourselves, chat to us. If you want us to see it, make sure you click on all panelists and attendees so we'll all get it. I'll also be throwing out a couple of challenges to the audience at some point. If you respond in the chat box, we'll pick the best answers and we'll put together some kind of Northern Crime Syndicate package to send to you. There's also a Q&A option at the bottom. Later on, towards the end, if I haven't run out of time, we'll look at that and ask panelists or the guests whatever questions you want. So chuck them in there if you've got serious questions for people. Right, we'll do a quick round of introductions from the normal Northern Crime Syndicate guys before I talk to the guests. Adam, introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Adam, also known as AM Peacock. I'm the author of the DCI Jack Lambert series set in and around Newcastle. Open Grave was book 1 and Grave Intent was book 2. I am also the host of the Northern Crime Syndicate podcast, and there's plenty of episodes of those to be catching up on, so if you haven't already, please do give them a listen. I was also once a Haven Holidays talent show competition winner for playing a song on my guitar and singing, and I have a 50-metre swimming award from Year 4 in junior school.
Adam, what was the song, please?
It was Green Day, Time of Your Life, or Good Riddance.
Oh, okay, quality.
If we've got time at the end.
Well, I don't have a guitar. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, I don't own a guitar at all. So,
Judith, go.
Yeah, hi, I'm Judith O'Reilly. I've written 4 books, 2 memoirs, Wife in the North and A Year of Doing Good, and 2 action adventure thrillers, Killing State and Curse the Day. And I got my paperbacks today, so instead of doing one of those videos with the box. And yeah.
Splendid. Rob Parker.
I'm Rob Parker. As Trevor just said, that's a useless introduction. I'm the author of the Ben Bracken thrillers, Far From the Tree, that's on Audible and coming from Red Dog Press next year. All sorts of stuff happening. Very happy guy. Big gob on some podcasts. Happy to be here.
I should say that because Rob's in his new house, he might have some tech issues, so we'll work our way around that.
Oh, did I disappear again?
No, yeah, a little stutter. That was all, mate.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Fiona, go.
Hello, I'm Fiona. I live in Teesside. I'm an engineer by day and I write at night. I've got 2 books published. One is The Chemical Detective. Is that back to front?
No, it's fine.
Perfect.
And latest one, The Chemical Reaction. I will put my video around the right way in a minute.
Chris, your turn.
Hi, I'm Chris McGeorge. I'm the author of 3, soon to be 4 standalone high concept thrillers. I have, I don't know, 2 dogs, I guess. And a Star Wars Christmas jumper, even though I remembered when I put it on that I'm not a massive fan of Star Wars.
Great work. And finally, I think Rob, our other Rob Scragg.
Rob number 2. Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Robert Scragg. I'm the author of the Port and Style series set down in London. The 4th of which is out next month. I haven't got a copy of myself yet, but that is it, with a dodgy quote from some guy called M.W. Craven on the front. I wouldn't listen to what word he says, but I think it's half decent. So.
I wouldn't. I think I've quoted nearly all of you here.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Hold your hand up if you've got a Mike Craven quote.
only higher Rob Parker's book.
Hey, there you go. I'm still dining out on that one, Mike.
We're mostly going to talk. Sorry, I should mention that I'm Trevor Wood, author of The Man on the Street and One Way Street, which I'm contractually obliged to say are gritty crime thrillers, and I'll be your host tonight. We're going to mostly talk about our highlights of the year and what's happening next year, but now and again I'm going to slip in some quick-fire stuff, as I'm sure you're desperate to know what Mike's favourite Christmas single is or what Mara's favourite Christmas movie is. And I'm going to start off with everyone's favourite crime novel of the year. And the only rule is we can't all choose Chris Whitaker's We Begin at the End, which is obviously the right answer. So let's go with Adam.
Hello. Well, actually, I deliberately picked it up there because I'm going to name 2, because if I'm doing like an inside job, I've told him this already. I absolutely love Rob Parker's Far From the Tree. And it made me sick because Rob doesn't always really like each other. And as you know, given that he does kind of that, you know, the Ben Bracken stuff, and this was like a police procedure, a bit of a departure for him, made us sick how good it was. So, and it also made us frightened to visit Warrington, so I won't be doing that. But outside of that, this year I did read Changeling by Matt Veselovsky, and I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. Can't recommend it enough. So, buy that.
If I was better at the techie stuff, I would have had Rob Parker handing a $5 over across the screen. It would have been huge. Fiona,
we can do that another time.
Fiona, your book of the year.
My book of the year. Well, it's really difficult because I've read some absolutely fantastic books, including these 2 awesome gentlemen.
This is getting way too incestuous.
Well, yeah. So I realised that might not be allowed. So I'm just going to go for the whole of William Shaw.
Oh yeah, okay.
In preparation for doing a podcast with Adam, I'd read a few, but I went back and read all the Brennan Tozier and the more recent ones, and I was blown away by how good he is. And
Great
what
choice.
a nice chap.
A fellow Quercus writer, nice guy.
The Birdwatch is a brilliant book, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Mike, what about you?
Well, because you said we begin at the end, I've gone for
Oh, top choice.
Carl Hyacinth's new one. He hadn't actually written the book for a while because his brother was killed in one of the mass shootings.
Oh God!
And it was a lovely welcome return. I was lucky enough to get, because he's published by Sphere, I think. So I was able to get an advanced copy, but they made me work for it, and I had to do this opinion piece on him for the Crime Vault, which was a privilege actually. I mean, he's in a league of his own when it comes to comic crime and writing seedy characters, and it's just a joy to read. I was giggling with excitement when I got it. I dropped everything I was doing.
I'm very jealous. I had to pay for it. It's a fantastic book, though. And if anybody, I'm assuming that pretty much everybody in the audience hates Donald Trump, you really should read that book because it's brilliant. Really brilliant. Rob Parker.
Yeah, it's, again, very tough. And I've read, I can't, you have to be sort of quite selective, don't you, about what you read. So I'm going to decide my book of the year based on something that came out of nowhere and poleaxed me. And that was Stephen J. Gould's Say Goodbye When I'm Gone. It's about 160 pages long, and it's just, there's no word wasted. It's like having a grenade in your head. It's amazing. That came out of nowhere and smashed me up to bits. And the design on that book is absolutely rad. So yeah, Say Goodbye When I'm Gone by Stephen J. Gould.
Thanks. Okay, I will check that out. Sounds great. Chris.
Yep, my book of the year is The Devil in the Dark Water, Stuart Turton. It's indescribable, really. So crazy, high concept, kind of crime. It's got elements of magic. It crosses so many genres. It's just insane. So yeah, I loved it.
I'm sure she's shouting about it in the chat room. But Sarah Moorhead, who's here tonight, actually taught Stu Turton when he was at school.
Yeah.
And he kind of credited her with being an inspiration. So she'll be delighted with that, I'm sure.
And Trevor, Kathy's asking for a list of all the books at the end, so I'm sure we can pop that on the
we'll put them in the Northern Crime Syndicate Facebook page.
Also, I think Stuart Turton's first novel is being made into a TV show on Netflix. I'm sure
it is. Yeah, I saw that announced last week.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I love that.
Interesting. Mari, what about you?
Well, because he's here, I have to say Mike Craven's The Curator, because I love Poe and Tilly. And that's not just because he's here, actually, because it was a brilliant book. I loved it. And my all-time favourite, Michael Connolly's The Law of Innocence, That Man Can Do No Wrong for Me. Yeah. And I haven't got either of the books here, and I'm so sorry I can't hand them, hold them up, but both brilliant books. Oh, there you go, Mike. Nice one. I like it.
You're actually on the back as well, Mari.
Oh, good.
Mari, Team Tilly or Team Poe? It's got to be asked.
Oh, that's so hard. I like
Team Edgar. Come on, let's have a
look. I have to say Tilly.
Yeah, okay. Do we have a quick straw poll of the panel? Tilly or Poe? Hands up for Tilly. I'm up. Oh, I think we're done.
Tilly gets all the love.
Yeah, okay. Okay, Team Tilly, we're Team Tilly. Sorry, guys, if you're Team Poe out there. Rob Scragg, favourite book?
So Mr. McGeorge has already nicked the one I was going to say, because I absolutely love both The Devil in the Dark Water and The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I think that the scale on which they are plotted just blows my mind. So since that's already been nicked, I'm going to default to one which I enjoyed just as much, which is Firewatching by Russ Thomas. Oh, yeah. Russ's debut came out this year. The second one, Nighthawking, is out early next year. But Firewatching was just absolutely superb. A really great blend of two timelines, which I'm always a fan of. That kind of story that edges you that bit closer and closer and closer. But brilliant characters, superbly written, and just great debut.
Brilliant choices, Judith.
Can I go for, technically the paperback was sort of 2020, but the hardback was 2019. But basically, Mick Herron could write a laundry list, and I would want to read it. He did do a novella as well, The Catch. I think the guy's just extraordinary stylistically. I love the sort of the characters. Everyone should read it. And I see Gary Oldman came to.
Which one's that you got there, Judith?
This one's Joe Country.
All right.
But he did the novella.
I've got an early copy of the one that's out next year. It's absolutely brilliant. I think it's my favourite
Is
so
it
far.
Slough House?
Really?
Yeah, Slough House, yeah.
Wow.
Exceptional.
Can't wait.
So funny. Jackson Lamb meets a dwarf, so you can imagine how that goes.
Man's a genius, but he is from Newcastle, so what do you expect? Of course,
Exactly.
he's a genius. Doesn't sound like he's from Newcastle, but we'll let that go. Okay, it's me, isn't it? I'm going to do two, I think, quickly. I would choose Chris Whitaker's book because it's absolutely stunningly brilliant. But I'm going to choose, you can't actually see what this is because that's a proof, but it's
Good shout.
it's Dom Nolan's After Dark. It's his second book. If you haven't read Past Life and After Dark, then I don't know what you're doing. Get out there and read it. If you're a crime fan, they're superb.
I'm sure I saw Don lurking in the audience as well. Actually.
Yeah, I know he registered. Don't know if he's here. Hope so. Lovely to see if you are, Don. And the second one, shout out for King of the Crows, published by tiny indie publisher Fahrenheit. Indescribable. Genius. I mean, it's so full of detail. It's set in a pandemic, so it might not be for everybody. But it's a work of genius. Read it. And there's only about 10 of us that have read it, so, you know, please.
Dom is in the audience, Trevor.
Excellent. Hi, Dom. Please write a third one. I know you say you're not going to, but do it for me. Let me know if he's chatting. Right, I'm going to crack on with special guest now.
He's called you a magnificent man for what that's worth.
Yeah, of course, of course. Let's get to the guests. I know that's what you've all been waiting for. Before we get on to the highlights, because I'm the host, I get to ask the questions I'm interested in. I want to know, did you ever meet as probation officers? Were you aware of each other? Did your paths ever cross? 2 probation officers who turned crime writers, pretty unusual.
Very unusual. But no, we didn't.
When did
Met
you?
a lot since, and we've had a few laughs, and a lot of laughs in Scotland.
Yeah. Well, which one? Are you on about bloody Scotland, or are you on about that little thing in
The
Wigtown?
little one.
I said we'll be laughing about this sometime one day. We were laughing at the time, weren't we?
We were.
That was.
You can tell the tale. You can tell. You can tell.
No, yeah. As that fella said, you're the most important writer in the room.
I was really hoping there'd been some kind of probation officer of the year award that you've both been fighting for.
Oh God, no. And Mike would have won, definitely. I mean, he was up there. I was doing the job. He was like, up there.
I did the job as well.
That kind of leads me to my first shout out for the audience in the chat room. I'm looking for a collective noun for a group of probation officers. Whoever comes up with the best one, we'll find some prizes for you.
Definitely.
So work on that. I'll let the others check the chat room out as it goes, and if anybody sees anything they think is brilliant, give me a shout out.
Pretension, what I would say.
Mari, let's talk about 2020.
I like that one. Sorry, somebody just come on and said a crook of probation officers.
Oh, that's a good start.
I love it.
A devilment of probation officers. That's good too.
We'll compile a list and choose the best one later. Mari, I'm going to put aside the obvious highlight of your year, which was obviously season 6 of Schitt's Creek. I know you're a big fan, same as I am. It's got to be the highlight of everybody's year. We'll talk about that later. But obviously, we should talk about the long-awaited return of Kate Daniels.
Yes, she's, well, I'll hold up my book, seeing as though everybody else has. Without a Trace is out in ebook and audio book, but the paperback comes out on the 7th of January. And I'm really sorry to all of those people that have had to wait so long for it. It was due out in July, and because of the pandemic, it was put back. So I'm absolutely desperate for it to go out into the world, and it's all exciting. 3 weeks today, but I'm halfway through the next Kate Daniels as well, and so that that's quite exciting.
That was going to be a future question. I'll come back to that.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. We'll do that for 2021. Was it that you desperately wanted to bring about? Was it public demand? Was it publishers? Where did it spring from?
Well, after book 6, I left everybody on a cliffhanger. Actually, I've just written an article for a magazine, and they call me Cliffhanger now, which I thought was brilliant.
Maury, I think cliffhanger's an understatement for where you left that one.
last line as well. So it was book 6, and then I had a 3-year break because I changed publisher basically. So it wasn't that I'd fallen out of love with Kate, didn't have any stories for Kate, but just changed from Palmac to Orion, and they wanted me to write something new to get my feet under the table with a new set of characters. So that's where Stone and Oliver came from. And then because for a number of reasons, A, I wanted to write Kate. B, a lot of readers of Kate Daniels were screaming, when are you going to put us out of our misery? And the last one was because obviously I'm in development with Stephen Fry's production company, and they would be expecting me to keep writing.
Yeah.
So I went, I asked Ollie, yours and mine, agent, and I said, this is what I want to do, and he put it to Orion, and they said, yeah, absolutely. So they gave, in my last contract was a 3-book deal, which was a Kate Daniels and 2 Stone and Oliver. But once they got sight of this, they said, well, what do you we want a Stone and Oliver next, which is already written and edited. And then they said, well, it's up to you, what do you want to write next? And I went, I think the Kate. So I'd like to kind of alternate those series. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm writing book 14 now, and I can't actually believe I'm actually saying that because I was only first published in 2012. So that's quite good going. So even if I die tomorrow, I mean,
I think you might even be more prolific than Rob Parker, which I didn't think anybody was, but that's pretty amazing.
There's a big difference between lots of words and quality.
No comment, Rob. No comment. Capital Crimes Book of the Year, Mari.
I know. That just knocked me out, I have to say, because I was up against some very, very strong opposition, and I think I was in the garden with Mo, and I looked online on my phone, and I said, I've won it. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that. I was just knocked out. And as honestly, totally unexpected. So if Capital Crime had gone ahead this year, I would have been dumbstruck. I would have been on the stage going, thanks. I wouldn't have known what to say, because I was so chuffed. I really was chuffed.
I bet. It's well deserved, that.
Thank you.
Would that be your highlight of the year?
Other than the fact that I'm still alive, yeah.
Yeah. I think we're all claiming that one. I want to throw in, I'm absolutely hopeless at understanding which imprints are part of which publishers and all that kind of thing. So until I got an email, which everybody got, from the Chief Executive Officer of Hachette this year, I had no idea that we not only shared an agent, but ultimately a publisher.
That's Mike.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. But the CEO's annual newsletter only mentioned one writer by name, which happened to be Mari Hannah. And it wasn't anything to do with the books, really, but I'll let Mari explain what that was about.
Yeah, that was really nice. I got the email as well, but just before that, somebody had written and said, I think it was Ollie actually, said, nice of David Shelley to mention you in his end of year letter. And but that was totally not on me. What happened was an NHS nurse sent me an email to say that my books were getting her through this awful time that we're all having, and she wanted to thank me, and it was a really lovely letter which I shared with my editor, and she didn't say anything about it, and then just came back and said, well, I've had a word with Hachette, and they would like to offer free e-books to NHS staff and NHS workers when we were going through the first lockdown, which was really lovely, but I can't take all the credit. I mean, obviously it started off with this girl who works in Cambridge Hospital and is still working incredibly hard. So yeah, that was what it was about. It wasn't a case of,
It's a great story, and
it was them. They ran with it, and honestly, it was just a lovely thing, and a lot of authors joined in and said, yeah, we will, we'll, donate books. And I think they pushed out over 20,000 odd people, NHS staff came forward, and those books went out, and it was lovely. It was a lovely way to give something to them.
I suspect you're under-talking yourself, but bravo anyway, Maury. I'll give you the credit. Let's move on to Mike Craven. Half the room is full of UK Crime Book Club people going, get Mike on, get Mike on. Mike, I'm going to yet again use my host privilege to ask the question I want to know. We've got fictional dogs. It's a nightmare. What do you do with them? I keep having to get my dog looked after by all kinds of people because I don't want him involved in fights and things. What do you do?
Honestly, if I go back to and this coincides with sort of mistakes in books. When I submitted the puppet show to my agent, he read it and he said, like, on page 69, it's not very clear who's looking after Edgar. You need to make that clear. He then submitted it to Constable at Little Brown. My editor then says it's not very clear who's looking after Edgar in this bit of the book. And it went so on all the way through until the copy editing stage, which, as most of you'll know, it's fairly near the end, that bit. And the copy editor said, you do realise, according to the timeline you've set up, Poe joined the police when he was 11. And I thought, that's utterly ridiculous. Everybody knew, to the point I was having to say that Edgar had fresh water and he was getting walked twice a day and all this stuff. Nobody noticed this catastrophic error. So yeah, it is a nightmare. And I talked about this with Maury when we're doing Bloody Scotland, Peter Robinson, because I think he coined the phrase, never give your character an eye patch, because then you're stuck with that eye patch. And you're absolutely right. Now, every book, I'm very conscious of where Edgar is.
Yeah, it is a nightmare. Please, if there's any writers in the audience, don't give your characters dogs, because you're constantly going, where's the dog? What have I done with the dog?
You can't kill it.
I was going to say, you can't kill them off.
You can never, ever kill it. So when you start off, make sure it's a young dog.
At least your guy's homeless, so the dog has to be there. At least I can just park. And Poe's nearest neighbour's a farmer, so I've got to get out. And so Edgar knows his way there, so he can just say, go to Victoria.
I've used librarians. I've used a librarian. I've used all kinds of people. Poor dog doesn't have a clue who's looking after him most of the time.
Anyway, if you're homeless and you've got a dog, I mean, like, the dog's signed up for the world's longest walk, isn't he? I mean, he's...
like you, if I'd known, I'd probably not have given him the dog, although people do love it. Right, let's get on to detail. It's been an incredibly busy year for you. I can't keep up. The curator's out now. You've got a book of short stories, novellas, maybe.
Yeah, it was fun actually. My editor sent me an email on Friday afternoon. Said there's a BBC short story competition. Have you got anything you can send to it? And I said, I haven't, but I haven't written a short story for a while, but I can have a go at one. She said, that'd be lovely. I said, when's it got to be in by? She said, 9 o'clock on Monday. Well, thank you. So I wrote one about some bodies being found in a foot and mouth mass burial ground, the largest in the world, actually, the largest mass grave in the world. And then they wanted then to sell it for 99p as a sort of promotional thing. And I said, well, it's a bit of a rip off 99p for one story, but I can write 2 more, and then we can have a little collection, and then we can sell it for a couple of quid, and perhaps people will be happy. And they weren't, obviously, of course they weren't. Nobody's happy. And then I got the book. So I've actually written 5 short stories this year, and a novella which isn't out yet, and The Botanist, and which is Poe 5, we've been releasing The Curator. It's been funny actually, because my publicist had a lot of stuff lined up for me, which obviously all got cancelled. So I've had a lot more time, and all the festivals have been cancelled. So I've had a lot more time to do it this year. But I've started Poe 6 now, because I will start 1st of December. Wow. I hit 11,000 words today, so that's going.
Jesus. But you've also had the re-releases of the Everson Flute books.
Yeah, I forget they were out this year, but of course they were. My little brown. Well, actually, I had to buy them back off Caffeine Nights because of reasons I'm not going to get into, but I might in the chat room later. and then they bought them off me, and they were re-released. But also, and this is typical me, I suppose, because I'm bone idle, and I had what I thought was quite a cool idea in Born the Burial Ground. I thought I'm going to use that again for the curator. Thinking there'll be about 200 people have read Born the Burial Ground. I can live with having the same sort of resolution. And then, of course, they bought it, and they were going to release it about 4 months between them. So I had to rewrite Born on the Burial Ground with a completely different ending, which was a bit of a nightmare. So the actual book that Little Brown published is different to the one that Kathleen Knight's published.
Oh,
but the resolution involves a left-handed guitar now, which stretched my imagination.
So you were rewriting that, what was that, like 5 years after you wrote the first one, or even longer, probably?
I wrote it in 2013, and I rewrote it last year, so 6 years.
Wow.
It's funny, actually, because Carl Hyacin said something along those lines, because he discovered a novel that he had started to write and then finished about 20 years difference, and he was able to sort of look at his younger self, whereas I did, and I said, God, that guy was shit. Each book's about 8,000 words shorter, because just there was a lot of fluff in it. I mean, in one of the books, I had a description of what the love child of a window frame and a bear trap might look like. Just a half a page on that, and I was like, what were you thinking of? I mean,
so how many people were in your mass grave, by the way, the record?
I think it's 500,000.
Oh, I think that beats you, Parker, doesn't it? How many did you have?
27.
Half a million animals, though. Well, yours were people as opposed to animals.
Mine
are people, yeah. Mine were human beings.
Okay. I'll let you off, because I know you've been claiming that to be the most, and I think you've been beaten, frankly.
Trevor, we've got a fantastic collective noun from Danny Marshall, an oasis of probation officers.
Oh, that's pretty.
OASYS.
Yeah, offender assessment system. What a load. No, I'm not going to go there.
Anything else, guys? Anything else in there that we should shout out?
We've got a couple of questions, Trevor. I don't know if you can see them on your screen, but in the Q&A, there's 2 questions in.
I'll come to that at the end, Adam. I'll find some time at the end to get to that. Mike, well, I didn't get to what your actual highlight might have been of 2020. Have you got one?
Well, it's been odd, and it seems wrong someone to talk about highlights when so many people have been suffering, but I'm going to give it a go. The UK winning the UK Crime Book Club Author of the Year, Book of the Year was pretty cool again, actually, because I won it last year, and also I won Women in Homes Thriller of the Year, which is also pretty cool. Being longlisted again was great, and congratulations on the Dagger as well, Trevor. I mean, it's
thank you.
I was watching that night. It was a good night with some great winners as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
So I haven't had any massive moments like yourself or like Mari, and sort of Mari changing the social conscience of Hachette and all the stuff that she did. I've just basically been getting my head down and writing and not leaving the house, which is pretty much my perfect year, to be honest.
The UK Crime Book Club is a big thing, man. I think we've got a few of them. I know Alex and I think Lucy is in the audience as well tonight. Big Mike Craven fans, I know for sure. Let's go to the rest of the NCS guys. Sorry, you're getting very little time here tonight.
Chill out for once.
Yeah, no, it means you can relax and just stare at the screen for a bit. Fiona, 2020, how was it for you?
Well, it was a strange year. I mean, like Mike said, it's a bit difficult. I mean, it's been both immensely long and immensely fast. But I guess a highlight for me was meeting all you guys and being invited to come along to the Northern Crime Syndicate. And that's been fun. I mean, you know, we've all had to learn how to do things online, and
I can't do
we're learning as we go. So, yeah, definitely
Rob,
my highlight.
Thank you. I can't do them. What about, you were shortlisted for the Staunch Prize, weren't you? That was pretty good.
I was dead chuffed. And Mary, I'm not sure if you and I will have to, if we'll agree on this. I'd love to have a proper chat in a pub one day, but I was kind of really pleased. So the Staunch Prize is kind of particularly for books which don't involve women getting tortured, beaten, raped, murdered. And although we all know terrible things happen in real life, most victims are male. And so, yeah, I was chuffed. What I was really chuffed about was the company I was in. So people like Jack Sarong and the winner, Attila Locke. So, yeah, that was really nice. It was good fun. And I read lots of new books as well as a result. So I always like prizes because I get to find writers that I didn't know before.
Yeah, that is good, actually. You always look at the ones who are shortlisted alongside you and start to read them, and it's amazing to find out new writers. Chris, what about you? Inside Out this year?
Yeah, that came out finally. That only suffered one delay. But it was touch and go a bit for a minute there. But yeah, I was glad to finally get that out, and I think most of you guys know I had a difficult time with that one. So when I got a generally positive response from it, it was really good. So that would probably be the highlight.
Wasn't our launch? We did a joint launch, surely.
We did, yes. That was good. Okay. I have to say now, my highlight is the joint launch.
Without prompting as well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, that guy from the Bell. Yeah, met him.
I will pass your regards on to Mark.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah.
And it's lovely that you can remember his name. Rob Scragg, you've had tons on as well. I think you probably write more short stories than Mike has this year.
Yeah, and I would probably pick those out as one of the highlights, to be honest. I was lucky in terms of my full-length books because the last one came out in January, so I did actually get to have a face-to-face launch for that one, which seems like a lifetime ago now. But thanks, Fiona, as if on cue. But probably the highlight for me has been there's been a group of authors that I'm on a WhatsApp chat with, and we've met at various festivals. And one of the group, Victoria Selman, asked if anyone would be interested in pulling together a short story anthology for charity earlier on in the year. And we've just released our second anthology, which I'll do a shameless plug. It's called Afraid of the Christmas Lights, just keeping it on brand. And that is myself and a dozen or so other authors, including Dom Nolan, who is probably in the audience, as we say. And we managed to rope in a few big names this time as well. We got Mark Billingham, Sophie Hannah, Harriet Tice wrote us a short story as well. And all the proceeds, all the profits, should I say, for this one go to domestic abuse charities. We're splitting it between two. And it's just been a real privilege to be part of that whole process there, and it's something that I think we'd look to continue for as long as there's interest, to be honest, and kind of share the love around different charities as we go. The previous one in April was Afraid of the Light, and that was all in aid of the Samaritans. Okay. So yeah, short stories aren't usually my bag, but I've had good fun writing them. It's a different challenge.
Very hard, aren't they? I mean, yeah, really hard to write, I think.
I struggle to get to a point where I'm satisfied that I've managed to get like a really satisfying ending in such a short space of time. So it's a bit more of a challenge, a bit of a test. So it's good fun though.
I've only ever written one, and I scrapped it 10 times and went back to it time and time again. It took me forever. Really tough. I should say as well, for people in the audience, I'm sure there's some Blood Orange fans out there. Harriet Tice's story in that book is a kind of origin story for Blood Orange. So if you've read that and like that, buy the anthology. Not just for that reason, because it's brilliant. I've read it. But that might attract you if nothing else does. But also, you did a Noir at the Bar short story as well, didn't you?
I did, yes. That one came out in June, July, I think it was. So virtual Noir at the Bar, which Vic Watson and Simon Buick have ran throughout most of the summer. Produced a volume of short stories in aid of NHS charities. And I think last I heard, I think certainly both of those have raised into the thousands for their respective charities. So it's just nice to be able to do something when we're just sat at home.
It's been one of the positives of 2020, I think, the number of charity anthologies that have done so well and raised so much money.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned UK Crime Book Club. I saw them. They brought one out as well, didn't they?
Yeah, they've got one out currently, actually. Criminal Shorts, I think it's.
Yeah, one of my stories, isn't it?
Fantastic. I mean, plug that in the chat room, guys. You've got the details. Alex, Lucy. Judith, what about you? Curse the Day 2020.
Yeah, so highlight, yeah, actually getting Cursed the Day out. That was great. Like Fiona, I think this sort of NCS fellowship is really positive, and I think we've really got something here. And then I think the other highlight is probably two actually interlinked. I've got a new agent that I'm really excited about, and as I've said before, I've written a crime standalone. I did it in 2 months, which is a potential game changer for me because mine tend to take so long. And I'm normally I'm like really kind of negative and what have you about sort of whether the book's any good or not, but I'm really excited by it. So I'm hoping to submit it to my agent by Christmas. That's my deadline. I'd like to ruin his Christmas so that he has to keep reading it.
You haven't got much time, Judith. I think it's like a week. What are you doing here? You better crack on. Off you go.
I'm doing it here underneath.
Rob Parker, you're going to have to keep, I mean, cut it down a bit. You've done so much, it's ridiculous.
No, my favourite thing this year, I think, is there's two, I'm going to just hijack two in. One is the way that I feel like the crime community, the crime publishing community, the book community, had to come up with all sorts of new ways to, I don't know, engage with audiences and to connect with each other. And I feel like through that, I've made so many brilliant friends. I know that's a soppy one, but I feel it's the truth. So I'm going to say that is like, yeah. There is. I mean, cheers, mate. But I do feel that way. The other one is on a much more personal note, and I think it's interesting in the sense of a behind the scenes thing. When Far From the Tree was 4 weeks from being published, we had a deadline. We had a publishing a date of 2nd of July. It was going to be published in audio, and we still hadn't cast the voice. And I only found out that the voice, my first choice, had been cast when he rang me. It was Warren Brown, and he rang me and asked me, and he said, you know I'm doing your book, don't you? And I went, I didn't know. I know it's out 4 weeks today, but I didn't know you were doing it. And he said, oh, right, well, I've concocted, this was right in the middle of the lockdown. He said, I've concocted a studio out of duvets in the back bedroom. And I wouldn't mind a breakdown of all the characters, like where they were born, what they're into, all that kind of stuff. And I said, for the main characters, no, all of them, please. And I looked at the book and there's 40 characters in it. And I said, so when are you going in the studio? And he went, I'll be in at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So, and this was at 6 o'clock at night. So I had to do a quick character Bible that even I made so much stuff up. Just off the top of your head, right? Yeah, of course he grew up in Bristol. Of course he did. That kind of stuff. But that was so exciting doing it that way. And so, yeah, those are my two highlights this year.
Okay, for those who don't know, Far From the Tree was an Audible exclusive, which is absolutely fantastic. And also, Warren Brown Rob is basically 1 degree of separation away from Idris Elba, because Warren Brown played Luther's best mate in the series, certainly in the first series, maybe in the second, I can't quite remember. But
yeah. Yes, Ripley, yeah.
So if you want to get to Idris Elba, Rob's your man, basically.
And the amount of people who get in touch and say, "Do you have his number?" Seriously.
Sorry,
I do have his number.
Adam, what about you? I know 2020 has been hard for you with your day job. It's pretty much, impossible for you to do anything else but work, I would imagine.
Well, I mean, it's difficult following that. It's like kind of going on after Queen at Band-Aid with a couple of spoons. I did go for a walk the other day, which was quite nice, because I do live on the coast. No, I think, it has been busy. I work for the Education Union, the biggest one, and it has been super busy. But we'll not dwell on what's been hard this year, I think, for me. So I think a couple of highlights, really. I mean, one was definitely Newcastle Noir with Chris McGeorge, when Jackie Collins described Chris's debut novel as being a book with an opening scene post-orgy, which didn't happen at all. And I think I nearly developed a hernia at that, trying to laugh during the live broadcast. But that really tickled me, that. But I think outside of that, probably just getting the podcast going, really. It's been great. We've had some wonderful guests on, a number of people here. I'd love to get Mari on sometime early next year, if she's willing. And so we'll keep running with that and get more and more guests on and stuff. And it was nice having an email response from Linwood Barkley saying, no, I'm not coming on the podcast, sorry.
Adam, David Baldacci says he'll do it.
Really?
Hey, come on, world exclusive.
In spring.
Right, okay. Well, yeah, so I think getting the podcast on was great. I've always wanted to do a podcast, and I thought, well, what is there to say? And then through all this writing malarkey and being part of this community, it's been just a wonderful opportunity to talk about that. And so the longer that goes on, the better.
You know, Adam, if you get David Baldacci on, you can never get Lee Child on because, not best friends.
Either.
Yeah, it's one or the other. You're going to have to make a shout.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah, don't like each other.
Yeah, they hate each other. Well, I don't know if they do, but I don't think they like each other.
Yeah, they really don't.
Well, I emailed Joe Nesbo, but I don't speak Norwegian. And I know he speaks English, but I don't know how it went down, but I didn't get a reply. But
I might help you with that later. We'll talk later.
Spot on.
I might have it in there.
Then I have a new highlight then, potentially.
You mean apart from me?
I can see this. We're never going to get this done in an hour. Does everybody mind if we just keep going until we're done? Has anybody got a deadline?
As long as my broadband holds out.
Everybody happy? We'll just blast on, and when we run out of time, we run out of time. We'll keep going. I'll briefly my highlight. I managed to escape to Edinburgh literally when Edinburgh closed a couple of months ago. The pub shut about an hour before we got off the train. But one of the things we did was a train spotting tour, the Irvine Welsh train spotting tour, with a company called Invisible Cities, who train ex-homeless people to act as tour guides. And there was only Pam and I who did it. And the guide was a lovely guy called Paul Stewart, who was going to come tonight, but I think he's got something else on. And we had a lovely time. And I gave him a copy of The Man on the Street at the end of it. And we had a lovely chat. And then maybe a week or so later, Chris and I did our launch. And Paul came along and we were dragging people on screen. And he came on and said some lovely stuff about the book, which was just, I don't know, it was a moment, So I really enjoyed that. And he's going to be a good mate, I think. And I'm trying to get Invisible Cities to come to Newcastle and start doing tours with the homeless people there, which would be fab. I'll move swiftly on.
You're not going to mention the dagger at the highlight.
It was all right. Okay, all right. What, this dagger?
Yeah. This one I just happened to have by the side.
That was all right. That was all right. Yeah, it's not about me. It's about Mari and Mike.
Vicariously. I mean, we got so much enjoyment out of seeing Trevor win that as a group.
Yeah.
The Northern Crime Syndicate. I mean, we were so happy for Trevor.
I knew he was going to win.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I wish
you told me, Mari. You told me. That would have saved me.
And I said to Ollie, this will be a triple, because he was going on about, you.
That was lovely, actually. Because
me and Deborah.
Yeah, Mari won Capital Crime, and Deborah Masson won the Scottish version of the dagger, really. And so all Ollie Munson's crew. So yeah, it was lovely for Ollie. Let's move on. I'm getting embarrassed. Obviously, one of the highlights for all the NCS regulars was how much support we've had from all you guys in the audience this year. We kind of formed towards the end of last year, and we had all these live events planned, bookshops, libraries, you name it. And obviously not a single one of them happened. We had to cancel one after another. I think they were pretty much due to start about 2 days after lockdown kicked in.
Yeah, perfect timing.
So we started these virtual events, and the support we've had has been fantastic. We've had a really loyal crowd who've come along to every event, especially Rob Parker's brilliant invention, our write a bestseller in an hour improv, Whose Crime Is It Anyway nights, which are ludicrous and hilarious and completely insane. But it's lovely that so many of you have turned up to watch them. So anyway, I thought that our loyal supporters should have a name. because, you know, Justin Bieber's got the Beliebers, and I believe Taylor Swift has the Swifters, and apparently Benedict Cumberbatch has the Cumber Bitches, which, you know, make your own mind. So what I want from the chat room is a name for Northern Crime Syndicate supporters. And before Danny Marshall or Sarah Moorhead get in, I'm ruling out Norks. I think that's for obvious reasons. We're not going to allow that. And I'm not sure that Nork is either. But
one in from Adam already, Trevor, saying Syndicates.
Oh, that's all right.
Oh, that's good.
So off you go, guys. There's your second challenge. Again, we'll find a prize package for you. And while you're doing that, I'm going to move things on to next year and see what people's hopes, dreams, plans are. But before I do that, I'm going to do what you've all been waiting for, everybody's favourite Christmas single of all time. And I'm going to go to Mike first.
What? I didn't know this was a thing.
Oh, read the notes.
I have people to do that for me. I'm gonna say "White Christmas" by Stiff Little Fingers. It wasn't a single, but it was a. It was. They had a bit of time left at the end of the gig, and they started record "Silly Encores." It's called. It's ended up with a B-side on one of their songs, but they did a version of "White Christmas" which lasted about 50 seconds, and they did the whole thing. It's a lot of fun.
Anything by Stiff Little Fingers is fine with me. I had you down. I was hoping you were going to choose The Darkness for some reason. I thought you might do that Christmas time.
Well, there was ones with the long hair and the...
Yeah. I thought it was metal enough that you might go for that, but no.
No. That's not metal. That's not music as I know it, mate.
Even though in the brackets it's called Don't Let the Bells End, which is an excellent double entendre, I think.
It's also a good name for the Northern Crime Syndicate.
Thanks for that. Maury, come on, favourite Christmas single?
Gotta be Slade. Because when I was in Newcastle one year, very, very, very inebriated, I was dragged up on stage to actually sing in front of a load of people that were playing guitars and drumming and what have you, just to be the front woman, you know. So I was pushed up by probation colleagues and got up on stage, did the bit, jumped off the stage, had a good time, walked all the way from Newcastle to Jesmond where I lived, which is, for those of you that don't live in Newcastle, it's about 3 miles. Got in, walked through the front door, straight up the stairs, plunked into bed, and about it must have been about 5 in the morning, I woke up and I thought, my foot is hurting me. So I nudged Mo and I said, my foot's really hurting. And she says, oh, go to sleep, because I was really pissed. And I said, no, really, honestly, my foot is hurting. And she pulled a 2-inch piece of glass. I was walked home with no shoes on because I couldn't stand up by this time. A 2-inch piece of glass out the heel of my foot.
Oh,
and I never felt it. All the way home, I never felt it until 5 o'clock in the morning. So that's why I remember Slade so well. I mean, it's a very
solid choice. I'm really hoping, can we persuade you to do the It's Christmas, Noddy Holder shout out?
Is this a question about Christmas songs or drinking injuries? Because I've got loads of them.
Go on, Mike, give us one. Give us a quick one. Drinking injury.
Well, my last one, when I went to a punk gig and then shattered my ankle and spent 3 weeks in hospital and didn't walk, and I've never walked properly since. I suppose that's my best one. But I wasn't. That was a serious suggestion. We all go around.
No, I'm not going to go around the table. Good for you, man. Adam, Christmas single. Show us your jumper, by the way. Stand up.
Oh, because I haven't got any pants on.
Excellent work, mate. Excellent.
I've leaned into this lockdown thing, so trousers don't exist now. Plus, I like to live a little dangerously when we do these Zoom meets. I would probably say, it depends. Are we allowing, is it Fry High, Keeping the Dream Alive? Are we classing that as a Christmas song? Because I love it.
I don't know. I've never heard of it.
It's got snow in the video, I think. But if I'm not allowed that.
No, that's cool.
I'm not particularly a huge fan of them, but I quite like Christmas Lights by Coldplay. It's quite catchy.
I think you're going with Fry High, Adam. That's as tenuous as E7.
Yeah.
Stay another day.
Go back to the first one, whatever that was.
mean, and I do love Shakin' Stevens, obviously, but yeah, Coldplay, Christmas Lights, something about that song I quite like, even though I kind of get away with the band at all.
Okay. Chris?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, it's probably not my favourite, but it's always the one I associate with Christmas, which is Stay Another Day, because my mum just used to play that on repeat, like every Christmas. Stay Another Day by E17, is it?
I don't know. Anybody know?
Yeah, the basic dance around in big white parkas.
It's literally just Christmas for me. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, by the way, they put the Christmas lights on in South Shields, and they invited E17, so like the whole town, because we're allowed to touch each other then, all met up. And likely thousands of people went to see them at the, wherever it was in the town centre. And it was 3 of the 5 of them. And the 2 that weren't there was Brian Harvey and the one that wrote all the songs. So it was like the other 3, it was like the backing singers in Boys.
That's Tony. Tony, that one is.
Right, yes. Yeah. So that's the South Shields claim to fame.
There's way too much E17 knowledge going around in this group. I'm just seriously. Fiona.
I'm going to show my age. Joni Mitchell, River, which starts with Christmas, and it's a really sad song because it's about someone who's going to be on their own at Christmas, and I just think it's so beautiful. And it's sort of for all the people for whom Christmas isn't necessarily a happy time. Yeah,
Joni Mitchell is never a wrong answer, Fiona, never.
No.
That's absolutely fine. Rob Parker, I'm worried about this. I don't know where you're going to go with this.
Michael Bull.
It's Chris Rea. Driving.
No, get out of town. That's terrible.
No, just listen, Trevor. You say, we're in a sort of circle of trust. Tell me your Christmas single, and then you judge it.
There are limits, Judith. There are limits.
Oh, you haven't heard mine yet.
It's such a nice song. Come on.
Yes,
okay.
I like it too, Rob.
Go on then, Judith. Go on, Judith.
Okay, Wham.
I wrote down Wham on my piece of paper for you.
Last Christmas, and I associate it, I'm showing my age as well here, with working in a not very salubrious pub, when I was sort of at university in all the holidays. Yeah, and being young and in love, and yeah, in the snow. And in fact, I was listening to it before this started to get me in the Christmas mood.
I heard your crime fiction addiction desert island discs thing where you profess your love of meatloaf, so I knew it was going to be Wham. Just got a feeling.
Is that true? Is that true, Judith?
Yeah, I love meatloaf.
The food.
Heck, you absolute legend.
Rob Scragg, give us a song.
I'm going to go with the original Do They Know It's Christmas Band-Aid. For some reason, and I couldn't even tell you why, it's the kind of my closest group of friends. It's the go-to karaoke tune, and it's been belted out at on a few occasions in Newcastle. Most recently, back again when we could actually go out, we even managed to drag Howard Linsky along to Cozy Joe's karaoke bar in the big market with his agent Phil. Phil didn't get up. He'd kind of staggered off before we got on the stage, but Howard gave a cracking rendition as Bono.
I've heard you do, because you do this like whatever time of year it is. Is that right?
Pretty much, yeah. Middle of summer, Easter, anytime really.
I like that. I'm going to leave you with mine, which nobody will have ever heard of probably. It's called A Christmas Jewel, and it's Cyndi Lauper and the Hives, Swedish punkish band. And it basically kicks the fairy tale of New York's arse. It's very rude. I can't read any of the lyrics out. But I urge you to check it out. It's a fabulous Christmas song. I'm going to move on to next year. What we're expecting, what's happening, who's got what coming up. Mari, back to Stone and Oliver, I think.
Yeah, well, Without Trace in January, and in July, Stone and Oliver in a book called The Deep. And it's book 4 in Stone and Oliver series, and it's good. I really enjoyed it because it takes me back to previous times. I can't really tell you when, but it goes sort of from the present day back, not in flashback, but just in the investigation. So it's a bit different, and I hope everybody who's read the Stone and Oliver series really enjoys it. I enjoyed writing it, definitely.
I love the Stone and Oliver series. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Really. It's a bit more, well, so far it's been a bit more Newcastle based, so I can kind of, I mean, I know we talked about this, that we wrote books that had scenes that were set in exactly the same street.
That was spooky because us having the same agent, and when you first told me, I had just written a book, when you first told me about Man on the Street, I was like, oh my God. And I said to Mo, I didn't like to say anything to Trevor, but, I had a homeless person and I did this, that, and the other scene outside the bloody Newcastle library and this, that, and the other. But it's just amazing, isn't it? We are in the same city. We were in the same places. We never talked about these things, but we both came up with yours was just great because obviously my homeless character was not the central character, as in yours carries the whole book. So, but it was really spooky, and I thought, oh God, he's not going to be very happy when my book comes out because, of this. But we had a conversation, didn't we? And
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, when you first told me, I was like, oh, that's my career over. But actually, it turned out all right.
But you've had an amazing start. You've had an amazing start.
It's gone
but
okay.
Yeah, so that's that. And the one that I'm writing now is for 2022. So,
And is that a Kate Daniels book then, from what you were saying earlier?
Yeah, at the minute its working title is Her Last Request. Whether the publisher will want to change that or not, I don't know. But I'm really enjoying writing it. Now I can, get on with it.
For those in the audience who don't know, even Mari, we very rarely get full control over our titles. Anything can change at any moment, basically. I'm glad to hear it affects you as well as the rest of us.
Yeah, well, I mean, most of my titles have been my own, but occasionally you do get a knockback. I remember, I can't remember which book it was. I think it was Deadly Deceit. I was going to call something different, The Last Deception or something like that. And Pan Macmillan wouldn't have it because they said the word deception wouldn't look good on the cover.
It's too long, probably.
And then I said, what about the necessary death of whatever it was, Lewis Winter, was it? Or necessary death or whatever. But I said necessary and whatever, deception with the same kind of size. And anyway, they said it was fine. We would go with a different title. So I didn't get my own way, but
And is that, Mike? I've got written down here Dead Ground, but I heard you say The Botanist earlier, I think. So is that a title change?
Yeah, yes. I mean, it's funny you're talking about covers because I went to see a band called the Anti-Nowhere League, punk band, and I saw them in Carlisle 3 years ago now. And they had a new album out, and there was a song on the album called The 13 Rat Theory. I thought that would be a great book title. So I wrote a complete novel around this title, and I changed it to The 13th Rat. And I submitted it, and my publisher went, absolutely not. You're not having rat in the title. No way whatsoever. You're just not. And I was like, but I've wrote the story on this title. I said, I don't care. You're not having it. And David, my agent, was saying that you're not having rat in the title. So I came up with loads of ideas, and I changed it to The Bad Beat, actually, which I thought was quite a cool title. And I even wrote a bit in the back of the book explaining what the bad beat means, and it's to do with an orchestra who plays exactly to the conductor's baton, when in fact a good orchestra plays slightly behind it because they're interpreting what the conductor means rather than rigidly sticking to it. They said, no, you're not having that because it sounds too musical. And I thought, well, Ian Rankin's just had a book with beat out the title. He said, but you're not Ian Rankin, so have a word with yourself. So they said, right, just think of something else. So I just sort of sulked, and I said, right, you can have what I was going to call book 5, which is Dead Ground. I said, we'll love it. So Dead Ground is now about the 4th title of the next Poe book, Poe 4. The Botanist I finished this year, and that's for 2022.
Oh wow! Okay.
And I'm writing.
So that's book 5? Is that right?
5, yeah, and I'm writing book 6 now. But funny enough, actually, because this will go back to Mari saying that she was the better probation officer, which is sort of what she was hinting before. When during my lunch breaks, which were probably lunch, particularly when I was a manager, because there was nobody there to tell me otherwise, I wrote a novel during my lunch times. It was an action thriller set in the States, and Little Brown have bought that from me as well. It was one of the good things to come out of COVID, actually. My agent, my editor says, have you got anything at all I can read? Because I've got nothing to read. So I said, well, I've got this thriller that you sort of rejected years ago. So we'll give it. So they bought that off me, and that's a sort of floating book. They're ready to throw that out at some point. So there will be a sort of, and so people are going to think I've written a standalone, but I haven't. I wrote it about 3 or 4 years before the Poe series.
So if anybody's got a book to go out on submission, Mike's editor, get it to Mike's editor. We've got nothing to do. Get it out there.
But don't
what about Everson Flute? Any thoughts of a third one?
There's obviously a lot of people wanting a third book, because I did leave it on a. I left him in prison, so it was being stitched up for a murder. I've got an idea, but it's I mean, because my publishing schedule is now filled till December 2024, so it's a bit hard to see where they could slot it in, to be honest. And there's also a couple of things happening which are embargoed till next year. I can't even talk about them, but it's also finding the time, because they want a Poe book a year. I mean, that's what they are wanting to do every June hardback and December for the paperback. And it takes me the best part of a year to write one, so I'm a bit stuck on where to find the time. I would like to finish that trilogy, because it was quite fun. I have brought the two worlds together though. So in Dead Ground, I've brought some characters from the Flute series into the
that's cool
series. For anyone, the one-eyed bouncer, Steel Eye Stan, the guy who lost so many glass eyes in the course of his bouncing duties, he sticks a ball bearing in his eye socket when he's actually working. He's in Poe 4. Yeah, and I've got a thing. Every time he's in a book, he's going to get the shit kicked out of him, which is because he's a complete bruiser. So it's quite funny just to have the tables turned on him every single book.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, I'm not that busy actually, because the big bit of work's already done. It's a book I wrote about 5 years ago. So my publishing schedule does seem tight, but everything that needs to be done for it is already done. So all the stuff that's happening in the future is pretty much written. I could technically have a year off from about May next year. I'm not good.
Trevor, can I ask Mike a question?
Yeah, go for it, Judith.
So, Mike, it's not like being a journalist, no? You don't worry that someone will come along and sort of, nab the main type of murder or serial killer or whatever. You don't sort of sit there fretting in case the zeitgeist gives someone else the same idea.
I don't do this for a simple reason, because I haven't read every book there is. So when I think I've had a really good idea, I don't know that somebody hasn't written a very similar thing. Because I've got what I think is a really cunning idea, something quite original for book 6. But it's entirely possible somebody's already done something like that. So you can't worry about things like that.
Yeah.
And ideas you can't copyright ideas anyway. So
I think that's true, Judith. When the Man on the Street was out on submission, an editor who was interested in it told me that he'd seen a kind of proposal from another writer that sounded a bit similar, and kind of just ticked me off to get a move on, really. But I suspect, I don't know this at all, but I suspect I've read a pitch for Imran Mahmood's new book, which is coming out soon. And I think it was possibly that, because on the surface it looked kind of vaguely similar. So it's a homeless man who sees a murder, but his homeless guy is a former kind of merchant banker, very wealthy, who's fallen on hard times. So it's got nothing to do with my book really at all. So you kind of shouldn't worry about that kind of stuff, I think, really. Fiona, 2021, are we getting a third chemical book?
Well, funnily enough, I was just going to say, when you're worrying about people nicking your ideas, no one so far has had a chemical engineering heroine. So, I'm good.
Go figure.
I've got a standalone book coming out, which I'm really proud of. It's something I wrote really, really early when I was still figuring out how to write. And I guess in lockdown, I kind of had the courage to send it out. And I told the publisher I sent it to, Sandstone, that it was finished. I sent them the beginning and said, yeah, it's completed. And they came back the next day and said, send us the full manuscript. And then I had to write 30,000 words in a week.
Wow.
So, but it's coming out next year, and it's called Phosphate Rock: A Death in 10 Objects.
Wow.
And anyone who wanted to know the truth about running a fertilizer factory, an artificial fertilizer factory, will be dead excited. So, no, but I'm really pleased. One thing I'm really excited about next year, because I mean, I think I'm right in saying we were all lucky in that we did get our books out this year. I don't think anyone actually had to. I don't know, Mary or Mike, if you had to put a book back.
No, mine went ahead because the pre-orders were so strong. So I mean,
yeah.
mine
and Mary.
Then I had the market to myself. Actually, it was quite weird because a lot of books did get put back.
Yeah.
But two fantastic books which should have come out last year and didn't. One was the fantastic Sarah Armstrong, The Starlings of Bucharest.
Okay, got it.
So these are both spy books. So with John le Carré departing, we need some new. And the other one is by Tim Glister, which is called.
Pull it back a bit, Fiona. That's
yeah,
it. Great.
It's called Red Corona, which is another fantastic book. And they were due out, and they had their launches pulled. And so they will be out next year, and they're two really exciting books. I'll put them in the chat as well.
I'll put a shout out there as well for The Smallest Man by Francis Quinn. Fran Quinn is absolutely brilliant story. It's going to do hugely well. Doesn't really need me to back it up, but look out for that. That was delayed till 2021 as well. Chris, Half Past Tomorrow. Tell us about that. I'm very excited.
Yeah, so that's out. I still haven't locked down whether that release date on Amazon is actually a release date or a placeholder, but that's meant to be out early August next year as of Amazon. I don't know, they don't tell me. So
tell the people a bit about it.
Yeah, sure. So it's set in Chesler Street, and it follows Shirley, a 70-year-old volunteer at the hospital radio. And one day when she's just, stuck for something to do, she starts playing on the radio, and she finds this pirate radio station that seems to be reporting news 24 hours before it happens. And start off, she's, really, jazzed about it. She's just having a lot of fun. And then the radio station starts reporting murders. And that's the concept.
Such a good concept. Such a good concept.
And that's just gone off copy editing now. But through that, for me, next year is going to be quite uncertain because I'm up for recontract, which I think is going to be difficult in this kind of climate. So I'm not looking forward to doing that. So it's a bit uncertain for me next year.
We'll push Half Past Tomorrow like crazy, so you get enough pre-orders that they'll just sign up immediately. You've got the Northern Crime Syndicate behind you now. You'll be all right. Seriously. Rob Scragg, what you got on?
So I've got my fourth in my Port and Style series out on the 21st of January, called End of the Line. That is all finalised and locked down. No more changes can be made. So that's out hard book and ebook then. Future for that series, not too sure. I've got a few other ideas that I'm going to pitch to my publisher. They've asked to see those, but I've also got a couple of standalones that I've pulled together that I'm going to share with them as well and see which they prefer. So I quite like the idea if I can of maybe taking a little break from the series and kind of bouncing back and forth between the two just to freshen it up a little bit. And also, like I think I mentioned one of the previous events, I parted ways with my agent this year because she's going into children's books rather than crime. So I'm currently chatting with a few agents who've got a full manuscript of a standalone northeast-based thriller.
Sounds very exciting. Best of luck. Judith, I know you've got Curse Today coming out in paperback fairly shortly, I think. What else?
But yeah, so book 3 of the Michael North series, hopefully. I don't know what the timing will be. And then, as I say, I mean, we all live with uncertainty. This standalone that hopefully will sell. Might not, but hopefully it will.
Rob, Parker, Ben Bracken 5?
Yeah, I've got 5 out next year.
I knew.
Yeah.
Just briefly, shoot through them quickly.
Right, I've got a horror out in March with Red Dog Press called Blackstoke. It wasn't supposed to be a horror. It started to be crime. It just got really minging, and I couldn't stop it from being disgusting. So it's a horror now. Bracken 5, The Watchman is out in June. The hardback of Far From the Tree is out in July, July 2nd, also with Red Dog Press. And you've got something that's embargoed to bits I can't talk about. And then you've got a project that I'm really excited about, which I know that Trevor and Mary are both involved with, which is a book by a member of the audience, Mr. Alex Hawley. I've been working with this man for some time now on a book that's actually a really interesting project, great story, and he's going to lift the lid on a lot of very interesting topics behind the scenes here. That's what's coming across for me. I'm really excited about it. Alex, I hope I haven't done wrong by mentioning it here, but I know that we're excited about it. But yeah, it's great. So yeah, keep your eyes open.
He's such a fan, isn't he, of crime fiction?
He is.
He is. He's brilliant.
And a top man.
He's an inspiring guy. Yeah, it's been great. It's been really good, this. And being able to chat to the people he can get in contact with is just amazing. So yeah, it's been great. It's been really good.
Excellent. Adam, it's been far too long since we've had a new Jack Lambert book. Is that happening? What's going on?
I know. Well, it'll be out next year. I haven't got a date yet, but I will put it out one way or another. That will hopefully be with my publisher. If not, then I'll think about what I do from there. I'm sort of tempted just for an experience to self-publish at some point, so that when the Northern Crime Syndicate indie publishing house gets set up.
So next move, taking over the world.
But I mean, the third Jack Lambert, which will, at the minute, I'm looking at it being the last, and it will see, so, you know, there's a prominent politician's daughter murdered, and we don't know whether it's to do with her or the politician or a very rich husband. And it'll see things come to a head with Jack and his former gangster employer, Dory McGuinness. So nice. I'll be tailing that off somehow. I still want to write that great vampire novel that I've always kind of wanted to do, but I haven't quite formulated the idea yet. So if I can get beyond kind of Twilight, maybe I'll put something together on that, because I'd love to do a horror. And when Rob said he's writing a horror there, I'm super excited for that. And I just think I'd love to write a horror novel, because I've done short story horror stuff. So I think maybe trying my hand at that would be great. And other than that, I'll just be walking around with my sleeve rolled up, a lollipop and a plaster, waiting to get injected so I can get a harrogate. If harrogate's not on, I'll just have to rock up to the hotel and stand outside and have a cry.
Oh, man. Have we got a third Grave title? Have you come up with it yet?
No. Any ideas?
Audience, come on. We've had Open Grave.
Grave Intent. The publisher likes the continuity.
Shallow Grave.
I only want to write 3 because eventually I'm going to run out of grave puns, you know.
Okay. There's another challenge. There's a third unexpected prize. Best Grave title. I've no idea. I'm getting no feedback, guys, by the way. What's going to be our supporter's name? We got anything?
I think it's a minging.
Oh dear.
We had a few in there as they've gone by, Trevor. There was one, Crime Brulees.
Oh, I like that. The Crime Brulees. That's good. Who was that? Do we know who it was?
That was my brother.
Good man.
Oh, a bit of favouritism coming in there.
A little bit of nepotism.
I need you guys to find winners for me, because I don't think we can resurrect the chat afterwards, so you need to trawl through it now. Okay. Pick some winners.
I like that Syndicate's thing, because I can laugh at you.
Well, that was Adam, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We can't give him the prizes. That's not
There
right.
it is.
Well, he could donate it to the person that he wants to.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Very briefly, my next year, and this comes back to what you were talking about, Adam. I think after several years, 2 years after I signed a deal, and a long time since the book has been out, I finally got my first foreign rights deals this week. Literally signed them today, this morning, the final one, and one of which is Sweden, but the most exciting one is Norway, and it's Joe Nesbo's publishers, Adam. So we're in, I think, maybe. I don't know.
Give me number.
I can find a route to him. And
Brilliant. That's amazing, Trevor.
very
I
beautiful.
signed my 21st this year, Bangladesh of all places.
Wow.
Major says the first one he signed in Bangladesh, which was quite exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing that paperwork when it comes through, because some of the stuff that you get sent through on some of the countries is just mind-boggling. You just can't make out head and tail. You could be signing your house away. You really don't. You've just got to trust your agents doing the job.
Well, I'm on your coattails now, mate. I've got 2, so I'm chasing after you. Just watch me come. Very nicely, they've actually signed all 3 books in the Jimmy series, one of which isn't finished yet, which was amazing. So anyway, I'm really looking forward to not being able to read the Norwegian version of The Man on the Street. Right.
My brother one. He's married to a Norwegian.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Send
brilliant.
my brother one.
I mentioned Fran Quinn's book earlier, and she speaks Swedish. So I've already got her nailed down to read the Swedish version, so I'm covered. Right, fine. This is the moment you've all been waiting for. Favourite Christmas films. Worryingly, I'm going to turn to Rob Parker first. Now, I know, you may not know this, but Rob Parker, aside from being a regular guest on the Northern Crime Syndicate podcast and doing the Blood Brothers podcast, also does a podcast called, I think it's called Now That's What I Call Shit Films. something like that. I can't remember the actual name of it. So, favourite Christmas film, Rob Parker?
Well, can I just do a slight plug to correct the name? For Your Reconsideration is the name. Thank you. Yeah, that's not what it's called. Gremlins. That's the Christmas movie.
That was on my shortlist. I'm going to have to cross that one off now.
Well, you see, I came up with the goods in the end, didn't I?
That's very good quality for your normal taste, I have to say.
Rob, I thought you were going to go with Jingle All the Way.
Well, no, I mean, to be honest, there's not many Bigfoot Christmas movies, so I can't, I'm stuck to choice, really.
I'm surprised you missed the chance to plug, because isn't that the latest For Your Consideration podcast, Jingle All the Way?
Oh, Jingle, yeah, it is. I'm so dense.
That's later on the plate for you.
I know,
mate. You both teed me up, and I just wasn't even there, sorry.
Mike Craven, what's your favourite Christmas movie?
You know, I'm not going to embarrass myself by saying Die Hard.
That's another one on my shortlist crossed off. Jesus,
saying Die Hard for your favourite Christmas film is like being the first person to put your bin out. You're just a knob. I'm going to say Lethal Weapon. The first Lethal Weapon film, just because I've been looking for it on Netflix and Amazon, just because I felt like watching it, because that is a Christmas film, or I think there's a Christmas tree in it anyway.
There is, yeah, Mike. It's
right. The stars.
Underrated.
Because the very first scene is like Jingle Bell, Jingle Bell, where a woman like jumps out of a window, and that's what kicks the whole thing off, isn't it? And that's the first Lethal Weapon film is a very dark film, actually.
Oh yeah.
Particularly the uncensored version, which a lot of people haven't seen. A lot of people haven't seen the one where there's a school shooting at the start, and there's a sniper shooting children, and he just walks towards the sniper and draws his fire and things, which is in the book, but I've only ever seen. I saw it in America actually. Just I happened to be. I thought I don't recognise this, and I watched it.
I've never heard of that version.
Lethal Weapon, just on the grounds that no one else thought of that, and I've just ruined Die Hard for everyone else. So.
I've never ever heard anybody choose Lethal Weapon as their best Christmas movie before. That's a new one. Chris McGeorge, go.
Muppet Christmas Carol.
Oh, that's quite common.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah, and actually recently it just came out that they found a lost scene from that film.
The director's cut. We're going to get the director's cut.
Yeah, it was on some VHS or something that they never released. So they're going to like repatch it into the Blu-ray or something. Yeah.
What's
Rob
the scene
Scraggs.
on?
Rob Scraggs going to say Die Hard now, isn't he?
It's actually...
No. I'll give Die Hard a miss. I've got a soft spot. I've always got a soft spot for Scrooged with Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think I'm going to go old school with It's a Wonderful Life.
And the room went silent. But we're all too young, Rob. None of us remember it. I don't know what you're talking about. Man.
Yeah, I do. It's just a bit.
Yeah, it's a bit.
Merry Christmas, City Hall!
You're not getting a lot of backup there, mate, I'm afraid.
I like A Wonderful Life as well.
Judith, go on. Can you beat It's a Wonderful Life? Surely you can.
I can. Miracle on 34th.
Oh, the original.
Oh. I like both actually, and it makes me cry. So my dad died when I was a baby, and then my mother remarried when I was just coming up to 6. And something about it obviously accesses that, no father sort of, thing. So I just watch it in flubs, and the kids are like looking at me sideways the entire time. Yeah, love it.
It's a great movie. I love the original.
Yeah, that and Die Hard. Yeah.
Of course. Of course. You've got it.
We've already watched Die Hard, actually.
Mari, what have you got for us? Actually, Mari, you haven't stood up to show us your Christmas jumper because we can't quite catch it on camera. Look at that. Fabulous.
Oh, dear. It looks a bit daft, doesn't it, with the...
We'll not go there.
With the snowballs on top of here. I'm just like... lifted up like that. Christmas. Well, this isn't really a Christmas movie, but I remember one Christmas when I was a kid, I was given the Little Women book, and I absolutely adored it. It's the one book that sticks out from my childhood, especially Joe, who wouldn't comply, who wanted to be a writer, and I just love that, and there is a Christmassy kind of scene around it.
Have you watched the new one?
I've just watched the new one, actually. Yeah,
well,
I enjoyed it.
When did you watch it? I watched that on Sunday night.
2 nights ago, 3 nights ago.
Great movie.
It just made me think about it, and I did read your email to say, we had to come up with this and that and the other.
Yeah.
Unlike the chief probation officer up there. They never read your emails.
It's a lovely movie. Adam, where did you disappear to look at your video collection there? Is that...
I've been sat here for 3 hours. I had to go to the toilet and I didn't have a book. I mean, the left field candidate is Bad Santa 2 because it's pure.
Oh, that's good.
Brilliant in it. Absolutely brilliant. I've seen anything like it. I do love Home Alone. And I remember being traumatized by Santa Claus movie when I was a kid because, the lad that's kind of homeless in it. I can't really remember it much now, but I remember feeling really bad for him. But my all-time favourite has to be Love Actually. Because if you think about
get out of town. What?
And I will never forgive Alan Rickman. I'm sorry.
What's the routine for removing people from Northern Crime Syndicate?
I think we vote.
Simple show of hands will do.
Okay, we'll do that after, the after show.
What's wrong with Love Actually?
Oh, man, don't get me started. We haven't got time. I've already overrun by nearly half an hour. Who's left? Fiona, I haven't come to you yet.
Yeah, no, just briefly, my guilty pleasure, not Christmassy at all, is watching James Bond movies. I mean, they're awful and they're rubbish, but I always associate Christmas with just sitting down after eating too much, and I especially like watching Daniel Craig. So, yeah, I'll watch any Bond movie that's on.
I think if The Great Escape can be a Christmas movie, then James Bond movies, that's acceptable, I think. The trouble with going last on these things is I pretty much lost all of the things I had on my shortlist. Home Alone was the last one to go, which is a fabulous movie.
Nobody said Elf yet.
I hate.
There's a reason for that, Mike.
I'm just doing it for my wife. She absolutely loves it. It's one of those things, and then she laughs like an idiot every time he does that massive burp, to the point you think she's never seen it before. And that bit where he's like taking the piss out the little guy. And I have to sit through it. It's a Christmas tradition. I've just been asked to do this interview actually, like 6 of my Christmas traditions, and I forgot about that. I'm gonna have to put that down. Sit through Elf.
My daughter loves Elf as well. It's inexplicable to me, but there you go.
Was that in your wedding vows, Mike, in Sickness and an Elf?
Oh, man.
Couldn't resist.
I'm not going to respond.
Good job. We've almost finished. I'm going to throw Edward Scissorhands into the mix. It's not really a Christmas movie, but
in any way whatsoever. Yeah.
And it's a top movie. We're pretty much at the end now, but I do need some winners of our competitions, and I haven't looked at the chat room at all, so I need you guys to help me out here. What have we got?
And Trevor, we've also got a couple of questions, but I don't know if we've got time
thank
to,
you, Fiona.
Yeah.
I will look at those now. Whilst you trawl through the chat room and tell me who's won. We need the best probation officer, collective noun, and we need a name for our supporters.
I quite like Knackers, the NCS, that's Sarah Moorhead's idea.
We have a question from Asim Wahid. What is your most interesting experience of 2020? Is there anything we haven't covered there?
I got all my hair chopped off. I couldn't bear it anymore, not being able to go to the hairdresser.
Mari, I think I read that story about you being shouted at by an old lady to give up your seat. Was that I'm taking it that wasn't 2020?
That wasn't 2020. No, that was in Middlesbrough in Waterstones, and I was sat there at the sign-in table, and this lady came up and said to me, would you get up, please? You know, like, would you move so that I can sit down? And I didn't know whether to stand up or what. And then the assistant came over and said, actually, this lady's signing books. I'll get you a chair. And she never sort of said, oh, I'm sorry, or anything like that. But she really barked at me. Yeah.
I love that story. Anybody else got anything for Asim that we haven't?
Yeah, I've got a weird one actually, because it involves sort of you a little bit, Trevor. Richard Osman did that speech at the start of the CWA.
Oh yeah.
Well, they couldn't get in touch with him. They'd asked him to do this, and he'd said yes. Then they hadn't heard anything. He went completely dark. They couldn't get to him through his agent or anything. So about 3 days before they needed to actually put it all together, Anthony Johnson said, look, we've got absolutely nobody. Can you do the intro monologue?
All right.
Thing? And I was like, well, this is great news. And I thought I planned for ages, and I said, I'll do it at the last minute to give Richard Osman every possible chance he could to do it. And eventually I couldn't put it off any longer. And I did this ridiculous thing, and I was talking about drinking beer for breakfast because of COVID, and I read out some rejection letters and things like that, and I recorded it, and I had about 7 goes at it, and I had to have the house cut. It was just so embarrassing, it was just so awkward. And I sent it off, and Anthony went, that's absolutely fantastic, it's hilarious, blah, 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 blah. And then about 3 minutes later, he said, Richard Osman's just sent his video through. And I was sort of relieved, but I subsequently found they did send it out to the debut daggers, and I've sent it out to like Abir Mukherjee, and because he emailed me actually and said, because he was hoping to win the gold this year, and he was going to mention me in his speech, probably laughing because I wasn't the current holder anymore. So I sent him that, but it was just this really surreal moment because Anthony Johnson said, take the piss out of Richard Osman for not doing this thing. So I was like, you're totally idiot and all this type of stuff. And then he said, so I spent like a week worrying about this absolute nonsense from that.
You got
so
gold.
That was a weird.
Gold. That was a golden story, Asim. You did well to get that out of him. And from Gail Wicks, we've got, do you ever base any of your characters on real life people you have come across, either good or bad, intentionally or by accident? I can take an early shot at that, and it's not really based on, but until it was pretty much published, I hadn't realised my main character is Jimmy, and his ex-wife in the books is called Bev, and that is my sister-in-law and her husband, and that even crossed my mind at any stage. I think because he's called Jim rather than Jimmy, it just didn't feature until the real life Jim read the book and went, what's this all about? Like, I just never crossed my mind at all. So it must have crept in somehow. Anybody else?
It's one of those things that just happens, I think. My neighbour is called Daniels. I didn't even know. I honestly didn't know. And I'm sure they think that I've named Kate Daniels after. But the funniest one was my youngest son, Chris. He said to me when the silent room went out, I'm Ryan, aren't I? I'm Matthew Ryan. And Paul's the other one, you know, this, that, and the other. So that was quite funny. But yeah, people read into the fact that when they're reading your books, they go, she's talking about me here, you know, or whatever. And it isn't true. It just isn't. It's probably a touch of a lot of people that you know.
Yeah, I think that's the right one. I think never a person I write about, just general characteristics I find interesting in other people that find their way into somebody else. That's all. And then, you know, but obviously if you know someone who is a writer and then you're reading their book and you might be on edge that you might feature in this thing, that probably says a little bit more about your relationship with the author than anything else, than what things might have gone on in the past. So no, just interesting characteristics is the only thing I would ever take. I would never base anything on real life, ever.
I think you're right though, Murray. People they can almost see what they want to see, don't they? Because there's a character in one of the standalones that I'm hoping to find a home for next year. And my mum is adamant, absolutely adamant, that one of the characters is my nana and another one is her. And she won't have it. I've said, no, absolutely not in a million years. But she just kind of like gives me that look like, oh, yeah.
I base all my characters on Rob Parker.
Thank you.
Including the Spaniel.
How do you write that laugh?
Rubbery face bit, or is it the the general demeanour?
Nobody can capture that laugh in writing. It's not possible, I think. Right, guys, we're gonna come very shortly to a close, but I still need winners of our 2 competitions. What have you got for me? Give me a name.
I still think Danny Marshall's oasis of probation officers is genius.
A what?
An oasis of probation officers.
Did you ever use Oasis, Mary? You wouldn't have, would you?
No.
No. It was really, this computerized assessment system. It was absolutely awful. So yeah, let's call it that, because what they deserve it for staying in that job.
Just while we're on Danny Marshall, I just very, very quickly, I've read Anthrax Island. It's going to knock everyone's socks off next year. It's unbelievable.
You've read it already? Rob Parker. I cannot believe that.
I even text Danny to ask him whether
Danny,
I could.
If you're on here, you're in trouble, mate.
Yeah,
honestly, and I know that you guys are tight, Mary, as well. But it's seriously, if I find a read next year that I enjoy more than this, I'm going to be amazed. So,
well, to be honest, Danny did email and ask if I wanted a PDF, and I said, can you send me a hard copy? Because after being on the screen all day long, I find it very hard to read on a device, so that's why I haven't read it yet. But I was only joking.
Oh no,
you're all right. I'm not going to
love it. You'll love it. It's so good.
I'm glad it's not just.
No doubt.
I've been waiting for it as well. I don't know why Parker got it first. I don't know how he's top of the pecking order, but there you go. Mm-hmm. It is what it is.
I'm assuming yours was a PDF.
Oh yeah, God! But I'm a greedy little piggy. I couldn't wait.
What about supporter's name? Danny Marshall is one winner. We need a second one. Somebody said Sarah Moorhead earlier. That sounded good to me.
What was it for?
Fiona, you said that one. What was the name for our supporters? I think you said Sarah Moorhead had one.
No, I said knackers by Sarah Moorhead.
Oh, was it you? Was it you, Judith? Sorry.
Fiona, you're on mute.
Fiona, turn your sound.
Technology's defeated me again. It's my age.
What were you saying?
Sorry, crime brulees, David.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Oh, that was a cracker.
Okay, should we go with that?
I like crime brulees, yeah.
Who was that? Brulee custard.
Fiona, say the name again, please. Who said that?
David Connor.
Okay.
Is that
David,
right?
We'll get you some prizes, David, if you're still there. If not, I'll email you. I've got your email.
I don't know these people, so.
I'll wrap this up very quickly. Look, thanks very much for all the people on the panel, our special guests, for staying for an hour and 40 minutes when we're supposed to do an hour. But I don't know. I was having a lot of fun. I hope everybody else was. Thanks very much to the audience who pretty much stayed with us from start till finish, which was wonderful. We are the Northern Crime Syndicate. If you enjoyed this, tell all your friends. If you hated it, don't tell a soul. We will be back next year, hopefully at some time in the real world, at a bookshop or library near you. Until then, we'll continue to bring you virtual events. Thanks very much for coming, and we'll end it now.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry
Cheers.
Christmas.
Good night, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Christmas.
Goodbye.
Merry
And
Christmas,
guys,
everyone.
I sent you a link. We'll have a chat on that. If you haven't got it, I'll email it back out again.
Okay.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.